Like, we have a lot of guest speakers come, we have a lot of people speak, and they spend a lot of time going through and meditating and reflecting and reading the Bible to share what they feel Jesus is sharing to them. And so one of my favorite speakers, his name is Jim Rohn. He said, take notes. Like, it doesn't have to be like really in-depth notes. We're not in class, anything like that. But anything that speaks out to you, it could be a random verse, a random word, or something, or just sharing how you're feeling in this moment. Because he gave the example that, like, when you grow up and you have kids, and 3 years go by and they go from like a baby infant to like being able to walk or even speak a few words, right? And then their uncle comes by, they're like, wow, your child grew so much. But because they're so close to you, you didn't realize how much they grew. Jim Rohn says that it's even more so with yourself. You guys don't realize how much you grow, how much you take in. So by reflecting on those notes, taking notes, you can look back and see how much you're growing. Vanessa earlier today was like, Eric has this like file cabinet in his head where he just randomly picks out something out when something happens and gives like advice right away. And that's because I have a book of notes that I've been taking on and off through the last couple of years. So we're all in school, we have notes. I really encourage you guys to take a little bit of notes as we go forward, especially because Brendan has been coming back and he's becoming even more relational with us. So he's becoming more and more, I guess in a way, closer to us, so then he speaks more closely for us. So with that being said, if you have notes, if you need a pencil or pen, I have a lot of extra, so just let me know. Okay, so Brendan doesn't need an introduction. We all know him. Let's welcome him up.
Hey, thanks, guys. All right, let me 1 second to hook myself up. Oh, too much. Yeah. How's it going, guys? Do I need a mic?
Yes.
No. Yes, I will promise not to yell as much as last time.
Yeah.
No, the first day, I don't know if you guys know this, so if you're new, I'm Brendan. Thanks, round of applause again. But I teach, I'm a graduate, I don't go to UWT, I graduated at Eastern Oregon University, my BA in History, Religious Studies, and my Master's in Education, and now I teach 7th grade. And the first day, 7th graders saw me. I don't know if you remember this about 7th grade. You guys believed everything you were told. And it's fun for me because I like to torture kids mentally. So every kid was like, Mr. Sullivan, we gotta ask you. First day, I'm like, yeah, what's up? Do you lift? It's like, no, just I came out of the womb like this. Never seen a weight in my, I actually don't even eat food. Kids are like, what? That's stupid. You eat food, you die. I'm like, no. I have a special gene that allows me to not eat food. And they like, nuh-uh. I'm like, yeah, Google it. If you don't believe me, go for it. Look up at your cell phone. They're like, what's it called? I was like, mesenteritis. And I just made it up on top of my head. And they're like, how do you spell it? And like, it went on for like hours. I'm not kidding you. And so that 7th graders believe everything. So it just kind of reminded me of that. Do you live, bro? Like, no, never. Guys, it's a crazy day, right? Like I'm out there freezing my butt off in the rain. Now I'm in here sweating my face off. Like I'm taking my sweatshirt off. I'm like, Lord, can it get any crazier? Well, I'm excited to be here. I hope. I've preached this message. This particular one, it's really close to me. This really hits personally home for me, especially as I remember in college. I hope this relates to you. I hope you take a lot out of it. I agree with Eric. And as a matter of fact, if you want, I have notes on this. If you want me to email you or DM you, file the notes, I'd be happy to do that. Please feel free to reach out. Also, I want to make myself available to you guys. If you ever want to sit down, have just one-on-one conversation, or a conversation with Eric and I, and with like open up about stuff, talk about life, be happy to. Love to buy you guys lunch or dinner. It's on me. I know you guys are college kids. You're eating top ramen, and you're living on $5 a month. Like I get it. So anytime, let me know, please. I feel like you guys are becoming extended family. For most of us, we are family because we're in the body. We're believers in Jesus. When you believe in Jesus, we all become part of this extended family. And so I want you guys to know that I'm here for you, whatever that looks like. But I'm going to go ahead and start and read the text of what the teaching's on, and we're going to pray real quick. We're going to be in Genesis chapter 9. It's the first book of the Bible. Genesis chapter 29, verses 15 through 29. Actually, verse 30. After Jacob had stayed with Laban for about a month, Laban said to him, "You shouldn't work with me without pay. Just because we're relatives, tell me how much your wages should be." Now Laban had 2 daughters. The older one was named Leah, and the younger one was named Rachel. There was no sparkle in Leah's eyes, but Rachel had a beautiful figure and a lovely face. Since Jacob was in love with Rachel, he told her father, "I'll work for you for 7 years if you'll give me Rachel, your younger daughter, as my wife." Laban says, "It's better I give her to you than anyone else. Stay and work with me." So Jacob worked 7 years to pay for Rachel, but his love for her was so strong that it seemed to him only a few days. Finally, the time came for him to marry her. "I fulfilled my agreement," Jacob said to Laban. "Now give me my wife so I can sleep with her." Hello. Oh, that's forward. Laban invited everyone in the neighborhood and prepared a wedding feast. But that night, when it was dark, Laban took Leah to Jacob and he slept with her. Laban had given Leah a servant named Zilpah to be her maid. But when Jacob woke up in the morning, behold, it was Leah. "What have you done to me?" Jacob raged at Laban. "I worked 7 years for Rachel. Why have you tricked me?" It's not our custom here to marry off a younger daughter ahead of the firstborn. But wait until the bridal week is over. Then we'll give you Rachel too, provided you promise to work another 7 years for me. So Jacob agreed to work 7 more years. A week after Jacob had married Leah, Laban had gave him Rachel too. So Jacob slept with Rachel too, and he loved her much more than Leah. And he stayed and worked for Laban the additional 7 years. When the Lord saw that Leah was unloved, he enabled her to have children. But Rachel could not conceive, so Leah became pregnant and gave birth to a son named Reuben. For she said, "The Lord has noticed my misery. Now my husband will love me." She soon became pregnant again and gave birth to another son. She named him Simeon, for she said, "The Lord heard that I was in love and has given me another son." Then she became pregnant a third time and gave birth to another son. And she named him Levi, for she said, "Surely this time my husband will feel affection for me, since I've given him 3 sons." Once again, Leah became pregnant and gave birth to another son. She named him Judah, for she said, "Now I will praise the Lord." And she stopped having children. This is God's word. I'm going to pray real quick. God, I pray that you would give us hearts and minds, Holy Spirit, to understand your word. God, give me the ability to teach it. Lord, I do not deserve to be your minister. And yet you, for some reason, have chosen me to do it. And God, I pray that I would stand here before them as a child of God talking about the good Father. And God, that we would talk about real things that are happening in our life, and that we would take away the scriptures, what you're saying, and that we would be doers of the word, that we would apply it to our life. I ask God that you would give us a better image and a clearer image of the gospel. In Jesus' name, amen. Well, this story, you already kind of heard a little bit of it. It's a wacky story. There's a lot going on. This is one of the most famous families of all human history. If you're not familiar with the context of this chapter, let me give you a little bit of context. And I'm going to be quoting a lot of different dudes. This is the night to take notes. I usually don't like to read off of notes a whole lot. This is the night where I'm going to read off a lot. So if it looks like I'm looking at my screen, I apologize. There's some things I want to quote because this is a heavy topic. But to kind of give you context of what's going on. Before, in Genesis 12, God comes to Abram. We commonly know him as Abraham. And he says, "I'm going to save the world through your family. Through your family, I'm going to bring the Messiah. The Messiah is going to come. He's going to defeat death. He's going to bring shalom. Everything that's wrong in the world, he's going to make right. The broken fabric of society, he's going to reweave and recreate everything and make it all new. And what that means is that there has to be a child from this family. Because in ancient Jewish society, how it worked is that they would pass on, how the promise worked is that children would be born and they would carry the lineage. And they would be taught the way of faith, they would be taught the Torah, they would be circumcised until the Messiah would come. And then he would bring shalom, he would bring mishab, he would bring peace and justice. So that's what those two Hebrew words mean. And this is one of the patriarchs. This is Jacob. He comes right after Abram, and then there's Isaac, and then there's Jacob. Jacob is the son of Isaac. And Jacob is an interesting guy. He's not a good dude in the beginning. His father, Isaac, favored Jacob's elder brother, Esau, over Jacob, even though there was a prophecy that said the eldest would rule over the younger would rule over the oldest. And Jacob is the second best. Esau's the favorite son. He's a homeboy. He stays at home with mom, while Esau is the big strapping lad hunting with dad. Isaac favors Esau in every way. And so Jacob grows up resentful. He's bitter, feels like he's cheated. He has an inner emptiness in his life. And then he cheats Isaac and Esau he tricks them into giving him the blessing that was meant for Esau, the blessing that comes from God. So Isaac would stand there and say, I'm going to bless you with the promise. And he was going to give it to Esau, and he tricks Isaac in a very nasty way. And now Jacob has it. And his family hates him. Esau wants to kill him. He is forced to leave everything. He has no money. He has no inheritance. He has no family. He is exiled to this place where his uncle lives, which is Laban. And he has to run far away. Oh, great. I'm at 10%, so if I lose my notes, this will be really interesting. That's all right. I've preached on this before. The theme tonight, the theme I'm getting to you, is Jacob has an inner emptiness. Although he's a very ancient figure, he's also a very modern figure. And the theme I'm going to give to you tonight, that I hope that you see in this text, is people with an inner emptiness usually tend to fill it with what I would call one true love. It's deeply rooted into us in our culture that, gosh, what's that song say? Baby, you aren't somebody until you love somebody. You ever hear that before? All you need is love. It's all about relationships, romantic relationships, and that's what we're going to talk about, because I want to make something clear. Romantic love is a great thing. It's a wonderful thing. It's a wonderful gift. But boy, oh boy, when you put it on the throne, when you make it God of your life, when that becomes your meaning, it's a terrible God. And we see it really three ways. Like, what's really behind the hope for one true love, and the disillusionment of one true love, and what actually fulfills the hope. So those are my 3 points if you're taking notes. What's behind the hope, the disillusionment of that hope, why is it ultimately vanity, and why does it ultimately lead to disillusionment, and really where do we find fulfillment of that hope of one true love. First, what's behind hope? So Jacob's life is in total shambles. He's struggling with inner emptiness. So how is he dealing with it? Verse 16. Now Laban had 2 daughters. The older one was Leah, the younger one was Rachel. Leah had weak eyes, or sparkle in your eyes, depending on what you read. But Rachel had a lovely figure. It is so funny when you look at the Hebrew in this. The word figure, lovely figure for Rachel in the Hebrew, means she is a bombshell. She's a dime. She is like your stereotypical high school cheerleader, like every guy's going after her. And then you have the comparison, we know that for certain because then we have the comparison to Leah, where she says, Leah is the eldest sister, she has a sparkle in her eye. Now it's really hard. Hebrew translators have looked at that and it's kind of weird. They don't know what to make of it. But some translators have said she's got protruding eyes. I've heard some rabbis say she's kind of got crossed eyes. She was not as pretty as Rachel. And you see that there's this difference. And when the text compares Rachel to Leah, it says that Leah had a lovely figure, and it was implying that she was absolutely stunning. So you imagine Jacob showing up to this town. His life's a mess. And he looks at Rachel and he's like, if I had her, if I had her. everything in my life would be made right. That would fix my sense of emptiness. That would make me feel like the world was okay. It would fulfill me. It would satisfy me. It would make everything that was wrong right. We can actually see when Laban's like, hey, your family, you shouldn't work for me for free. What should be your payment? And he says, give me my wife, Rachel. I want to sleep with her. Did you see that? It's like, whoa! Like even for us, like modern people in the 21st century, where we're exposed quite a bit on the internet and like culture, like we're not shameless about our sexuality at all anymore. Back then, it was an even bigger problem. There's a Jewish scholar named Robert Alter who says for centuries, Jewish rabbis were like pulling their head out of their hair, reading this stuff. It's like, this is so uncustomary for the time. But Jacob was thinking, if I had Rachel, the most beautiful girl, it would fix everything in my life. And that's the most important thing. That's behind the hope. Now, you're listening to this. The tendency is, I guarantee you, some of you are thinking this. Well, I know somebody like Jacob. You're probably looking at someone right now in the crowd. That's you! That's you! Stage 5 plinger. Or you're saying all the funny things or whatever. He's an emotional cripple. It's like, isn't it great we don't live in a society where a girl's looks doesn't determine the course of her future? Isn't it great we don't live in a society where it's not based off of solely people's appearance? Do I have to indulge in sarcasm anymore? We all kind of get that hint when we look at Instagram, huh? And really, there's an interesting guy I read in college. His name is Ernest Becker. He was an atheist. He wrote a Pulitzer, I can't talk. Someone help me. Pulitzer. Thank you, Eric. Gosh, I missed it. Eric, I don't know if they told you I talked about you in that sermon.
Yeah, they recorded you. I saw it.
Oh, you did? I didn't
I'm
see
caught
it.
up, don't worry.
Oh, did your heart warm inside when you saw that? I know you did. But anyways, this guy named Ernest Becker wrote this Pulitzer-winning prize book. It was called The Denial of Death. And he's an atheist, and he's basically saying, now that we've done away with God, now we know that God is dead. How do we then, because this is a big problem with atheism, because in atheism, if you get rid of God, then you have no center or meaning for life. You have no purpose, because under atheism it says that there's no moral right or wrong. You determine your moral right or wrong. There's no meaning. You determine your meaning. But therefore, what do we live for? Do I just make it up? Like, how do I know objectively my life means something? And Ernest Becker's solution was, quote unquote, the love partner. He says this, and this is an atheist talking, quote, the self-glorification that he needed in his innermost nature, he now looked for in the love partner. All spiritual and moral needs now become focused on the individual. After all, what is it when we want when we elevate the love partner to the position of God? We want to be rid of our faults. We want to be rid of our feeling of nothingness. We want to be justified, knowing that our existence is in vain. We want redemption. Nothing less. You think that Becker's overdoing this? He's an atheist, for crying out loud. He's not. There was an article I was reading the other day how young people are pressured. And I think you guys can really relate to this. They're feeling the pressure of society, whether it's school, whether it's they're younger people outside of college going into new jobs, especially in New York. They were talking about these people in New York and the way they're dealing with their anxiety is what they call apocalyptic hookups. Having sex with someone they think is really hot. Some of you guys know it more commonly known as Tinder. And you guys are like, oh man. It's really a way when people when engage in apocalyptic hookups, or they have to get married at all costs, what they're really doing is they're dealing with the inner emptiness. They're empty inside. And they're trying to look for people to fill that void. And you see, the problem is with this, is people that do that. You don't know who you are. You don't know your identity. This is a big thing I talk about in my 7th grader with my high schoolers. with any class I teach, with any message I preach. This is central. This is the issue. Every one of you are going to answer this question later on in your life, whether you like it or not, is who you are. What's your identity? What's your identity? Is your identity rooted in being a really, really good son or a good daughter? Is your identity rooted in being a good student? Is it rooted in on performance? Is it rooted on your grades? Is it rooted in how much weight you have on a barbell? Is it rooted in your how many likes you have on Instagram? What's your identity? Is it you're a really, really good religious person that prays every day and reads the Bible? Or are you a Christian and you believe my identity is in Christ alone and what He did for me on the cross? But you have to make that choice with identity. And the problem I see with sexual identity, with apocalyptic hookups, with marriage identity, where you put identity in a human being, my meaning in life is hashtag bae, and how much he or she loves me, or the feelings I get with being that person, your identity becomes that person. And let me tell you about something with human nature. People are not perfect.
Amen.
They screw up. Look, you guys might think I'm a great guy, but let me tell you, I'm a screwed up person. You cannot totally 100% trust me with your feelings. No human being can handle that. Because you're putting them in the position of God. I cannot completely 100% affirm you in the way you want. Some of the worst things that have ever been done in human history is that. And that's what Becker is talking about. It's not just Jacob. It's also you. Not only that, but speaking on the apocalyptic hookup culture, because this is more prevalent, because we live in a postmodern society. We live in a society where sexuality is fluid, it's organic, you can do what you want, it's appetite, if you're hungry, eat. And that's how we treat sexuality. But if you do that, if you approach human beings like that, then they become nothing more than objects where they gratify your desires. It becomes a one-way street. It's all about me. It's all about what I get. They become commodities. You commodify people and you dehumanize them. Why do you think we have the problems we do with the Me Too movement and the sexual stuff going on in Hollywood? Because we dehumanize people. We treat them nothing more than you're a sex object. If you look for, maybe you're into the marriage thing. Maybe you're like, I'm not into that at all. I just want to be married. That's it. If you put all your hopes in being married, then that person, all that person will be is the person that fulfills your deepest desires. You're using them. You don't actually love them. Let me tell you something. Marriage is tough. It's really hard. There's going to be days you're going to wake up next to that person. You're like, not only you're ugly, but you're making me mad. And I don't like you right now. We have an unrealistic expectation of love because we've turned it into an idol. It's become God. And my computer's about ready to die.
There's an outlet on the bottom.
Really? What?
There's an outlet on the bottom.
Sorry. Can you grab my backpack? Sorry, guys. Take a quick Instagram break. What? It's the one, yeah, right, that's the one. Yeah, it's with the hydro. Yep, that's the one. Yeah, I know, I'm such a nerd. Sorry, guys. Oh. I was like, I thought for sure, now the trick will be not tripping over this cord, you see. That would be not good. All right. All right, your Instagram break is over. Just kidding, you can go on Instagram. I'm not going to care. But I do want you guys to listen. Oh. What happened here? Sorry, it's just all the time I spend in the gym. I mean, I don't. So beef. Just. Can you guys hear me okay? All right. Where was I? If you're into the whole marriage thing, you're just going to put all this pressure on someone that can't handle it. If you're in the apocalyptic hookups, you're just humanizing people. Gosh, I read an article, same article about the apocalyptic hookups. This guy literally said, quote, "Yeah, it's so easy to hook up. You swipe a few times, at the end of the night, you're guaranteed to have sex. It's like ordering a pizza," he said. At the end of the day, you don't really care about the persons. You don't value their humanity. You're looking to get something out of them that benefits you. You end up dehumanizing them. And women use the physical. They always use the physical to get the emotional. And the men always use the emotional to get the physical. This is something you must learn. Why do they do that? Because they're in pursuit of one true love. And sex, according to the Bible, guys, God created it. He's like, when He's created, He says it's tovnito. It's very good. It's like looking at a sunset. It's something that's so miraculous and beautiful and pleasurable. He's like, yeah, and the first command of the Bible is like, be fruitful and multiply. Hey guys, go have sex. Awesome! I want to be obedient. This is great. Now, it's so powerful though. Sex is such a powerful mechanism. And God created it to be pleasurable and spectacular. But when you use sex outside of marriage, there's nothing that binds people. And what always happens, maybe you've experienced this, when you break up with someone, and by the way, if you feel convicted right now, just know that there's always hope and grace in Jesus. And that you can start anew today. And that there's nothing that you've done that will make Him love you less. There's no sin. Let me tell you something. I'm not up here because I'm a godly man. I'm in here because I'm the chief of sinners to demonstrate the mercy and love of Christ. And that is available to you. So don't feel like you're too dirty to come before Him. He's made you clean by way of the cross. All you have to do is step in the light. The light reveals sin. Yes, that's very scary. But the light is not a light to shame you. It's to heal you. So just FYI, I know I went on a little bit of a tangent. But that's what's behind the hope for one true love. How do we get over this sense of meaningless in our life? Love. So the disillusionment. This actually is kind of funny, but also kind of sad. Kind of funny, but also kind of sad. We see the disillusionment in a number of ways. We see it in two people. We see it in Jacob and Leah. Let's look at Jacob first. Jacob, con artist. He's a thief. Remember, Jacob basically has to trick his father into giving him his brother's birthright. But in Laban, this sneaky guy, Laban, kind of reminds me of Jafar from Aladdin. That's how I picture Laban. I mean, Jacob's met his match. Let's read it. Jacob loved Rachel, and he said, "I will serve you 7 years for your younger daughter, Rachel." Laban said, "Well, it's better I give her to you than anyone else." Now, we don't get flabbergasted at all at that because we don't understand the culture of that time. When someone says, "I will work 7 years for Rachel," that's like you get a little beat-down car that's worth maybe $2,000, and someone just is like, "I will pay 75 grand for that, just beat her." This is not a negotiation. Jacob's like, "I will pay an enormous sum. I am not negotiating. I will buy her outright." And Laban's little wheels start to spin. He's like, "Oh, I can exploit this guy." So Jacob worked 7 years. And to him, 7 years only felt like a few days. Oh. So, now, the wedding time comes after 7 years. Did you notice that part? He goes to bed with Rachel, and then behold, it's Leah. Like, how does that happen? Like, how do you mistake? Let me just put these in context. Weddings lasted way longer. It lasted a week. You do at weddings, you dance, and you also do a lot of what? You get really drunk. And this guy must have been so drunk. Also, at night, the bride is veiled. She's covered. And also, there's no running lights. And he goes to bed thinking, "Oh, Rachel," but what's the text say? And in the morning, he wakes up, and behold, it's Leah. Now, I love Leah. I love Leah, and I can't wait to show you what Leah, and I'm protective of Leah. She represents something so beautiful. But for a moment, I have to show the author of Genesis is a literary ninja. He's showing you an important life lesson here. Never, ever, ever forget this. If you really want to live a wise life, you remember this. You write this down. You put this in your notes. You save it. You DM it to your friends. You put it on your storyline. If you look for that one thing in your life, whatever that is, I'm just telling you, whatever you're pursuing right now, whatever you think is going to bring you in meaning in life, I'm just telling you, at night, it's always Rachel, but in the morning, it's Leah. At night, it's always Rachel, but in the morning, you always wake up with Leah. You always wake up with the cross-eyed girl, with the girl with the protruding eyes. It's really, I know, let me tell you guys a quick story. Kind of articulate this point a little bit more. What I'm talking about with the intervention is disillusionment. One of my buddies is the right-hand man to Pete Carroll at the Seahawks. He goes with them, travels with them. He's on the field with them. He was there when the Seahawks won the Super Bowl. And that game was like the most epic beatdown ever. The build-up to it was insane. It was perfect. They win, and they win big. It is the Super Bowl. You can't get any higher than that. It's every boy's dream. It's the pinnacle which society, what success looks like. It's the graffiti, it's the confetti. I'm sure there was graffiti too. There's the trophy. They're saying, I thank God, I love mom and dad, and I love my wife, thanks to my coach, my trainer. And it's just the pinnacle of their career. And what my buddy told me, goes in the locker room. He says it was one of the most bizarre things he's ever seen in his life. Everyone around these two guys, I won't name the players, were celebrating, but these two guys are sitting in their lockers and just, they looked like they lost. And he's like, what's wrong with you guys? We just won the Super Bowl. You know what they said? Man, I thought it would be more. I thought it would be, it's the Super Bowl! I thought it would be more. That's them thinking they went to bed at night with Rachel. They woke up and they realized it's Leah. That's what I mean. If you put your ultimate desires into something that you think is going to satisfy you, whether that's going into graduate school, getting the right school, whether that's getting these grades, whether it's getting this job, and in this case, a human being that's going to satisfy you completely, it will utterly crush you. Let me just put it this way. Idols can never, ever, ever satisfy you. They promise something that they cannot deliver, and they will never, ever, ever, ever forgive you if you let them down. But the difference is, of course, Jesus will always satisfy you, and he will always forgive you. Period. End of discussion. And so that's why it's just not love. It can be love, it can be anything can be made an idol. The point is, no human being can live up to the standards. And I'm just going to be honest with you. If you idolize sex, if you're into the apocalyptic hookups, you try to have sex with your boyfriend, girlfriend to stay with you, in the morning it will always be Leah. It will always be Leah. And that's not all. It's not just Jacob's life that's destroyed. It's not just Jacob. Now we have Leah. Because of Jacob's pursuits, it led to so much destruction. I mean, think about it. Destroyed his immediate family's life. Now he's destroying Laban's life in this way. Laban and Rachel, Leah. Leah, her whole life, think about this. She's the oldest sister. Now, some of you may relate to this. In the family, if you're the eldest son, eldest daughter, like, that's huge. She's the eldest sister. And she's living in the shadow of her much more beautiful younger sister. She's always getting passed up. And Laban's like, I don't know what to do to get rid of her. I'm never going to be able to get rid of her. Oh, I got to trick some poor guy into marrying her. And when she finally marries the man of her dreams, he does not love Leah like she wants him to. She's overlooked. She's thrown away. She's trashed. She's unloved. Leah's the ugly duckling. This is the girl that no one loved. This is the girl that no one loved. And we see it in the text. Look, where he's saying, Reuben, it's where she's naming her children. She's naming her children. She's having children with Jacob. And she names the first one Reuben. Reuben's the Hebrew word to see. Because what she's saying is she's naming her children to describe her affection for her husband. Because what she's saying is, now finally, now that I'm being the perfect wife and I'm having kids, I will be invisible to my husband. And finally, he won't look right through me. And then she has another child that means Simeon, which means the Hebrew word to hear. Now my husband will hear me. Now he won't just treat me like white noise. And then finally, she has Levi, which means to be attached or to cleave to. And she says, now my family, now finally my husband will be attached to me. She's trying to fulfill, she's being the perfect wife, Republican values, conservative values. She's being the perfect wife. She's having babies. And it's not enough. Why? Because you could be conservative or liberal and you could still idolize sex and marriage. You say, well, I'm never going to get married, I'm going to be independent. You idolize independence. That's your God. That's the God you serve. You could idolize, it could be all about you getting married and having kids. You idolize your husband or your wife for having kids. Now a couple questions come up. These are questions I had when I read this text. First, I had a real problem with this, reading this as an unbeliever the first time. This is what I hate about the Bible. It's like people being bought and sold.